बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम फ्रेंड्स, उम्मीद करते हैं कि आप सब खैरियत से होंगे। फ्रेंड्स, आज के सेशन में हम डिस्कस करेंगे पॉलिटिकल लायरिंग। वीडियो की तरफ बढ़ने से पहले हमारी आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है कि हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर दें। चलिए आज के सेशन की तरफ बढ़ते हैं। The study of the process by which a society adapts to its environment. Its principal problem is to determine whether these adaptations institute internal social transformations or evolutionary changes. It analyzes these adaptations, however, in conjunction with other processes of change. History of the concept. 20th century changes of the meaning. The intertwining of the sociological and the political or ethical viewpoints was perpetually renewed during the history of French intellectual after the Dreyfus affair. The new socialization of the world occurred with the attacks against previous Dreyfus in the pre-World War period. The patriot intellectual, to use the Pegasus phrase, was charged by their former allies for having used the political struggles in order to conquer the eminent position of the power. For their critics, this political party in fact constructed a social cluster of the arrivist, a new elite of Madrians backing upon the leftist politicians. Between the two world war, there was a revival of the political and ideological emphasis on the meaning of the word during what has been called the Franco-French War between the right-wing patriot, the intelligence, and the left-wing intellectuals, the Quech. This trend is enhanced because at the same time extreme left movements tried to restrict the notion to a sociological sense. The influence of the Soviet Marxism may be found here, in which intellectuals become a more synonyms for the Russians and the intelligentsia, which is nearly a sociological concept after the October Revolution than the term intellectuals is in French. Intellectuals is the phraseology of the communist parties are assimiled to the social group in order to deny them any political autonomy and oblige them to define their political attitude, which is within the limit of the Marxist Leninist orthodoxy, and the renounces to their own vision, which is in French political tradition far more linked with the French Revolution legacy and the defense of the human right. This intertwining of two traditions after 1930s explain why leftist intellectuals use the social concepts to attack their rightist opponents, while in contrast, richest intellectuals laid the stress on the idealistic conceptions of the intellectuals. The decline of the Marxism is the intellectualia, and the excess of the sociological terrorism is intellectual struggles during the 1950s and 1960s. Explain why the French contemporary intellectual life is dominated by some sort of the revival of the primitive meaning of the word intellectual. This concept, historically cycled, is one of the origin of the renewed interest for the study of intellectuals as political and social actors by French and foreign scholars in 1980s and 1990s. Anti-intellectualism, which was no frequent in England and Germany before World War I, seemed to somewhat decline after the mobilization of all types of the intellectuals, scholars as well as the writers or journalists, during the Union sacre for propaganda or political applications devoted to national defense. It conferred on them a new importance of all the political contexts after World War I in both the UK and Weimar Germany now placed the intellectuals in a political context quite similar to the French one. The growing influence of the left parties, the Marxist idea of the international questions, fear for a new world war gave birth to international debates among the European intellectuals, or even American if the case of the New York intellectuals may be included World 1987. Nevertheless, this did not mean that the specific national tradition were forgotten. Even if notions like intellectually and intelligentsia were present more than before in the German or or English public debates. They never obtained the general influences or consensus which their equivalents enjoyed in France. So फ्रेंड्स दिस वाज ऑल अबाउट टुडे सेशन. मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में, तब तक के लिए अपना ख्याल रखिएगा. हमें दीजिए इजाज़त. अल्लाह हाफिज़.